watching Darasa Online.
Hello students, hope you're fine. My name is Mtinga Kengera, a teacher from Bible School teaching commerce subject. So today we are going to have a lesson on a topic known as stock exchange. Stock exchange is a topic which is taught in A-level. So may I take this opportunity to welcome you for this time around. Now, in this topic, we are going to cover the following areas.
You are watching Darasa Online.
Our lesson today will cover the following areas. Number one is the meaning and features of stock exchange. 2, the benefits of buying shares or other securities from stock exchange. 3, types of securities traded in stock exchange. And the last part of our lesson will be factors affecting the prices of shares in stock exchange. So my dear students, these important areas you need to understand very well these areas because they are very important in this topic of stock exchange. Now let's start with the meaning of stock exchange. Stock exchange is a specialized market for different securities, including shares and bonds. In this market, the business or the transaction which is taking place is only concerning with securities. I can ask you a question. Can you find other commodities like shoes, clothes in stock exchange? Or can you find shares from other markets like Buguruni market, Kariakoo market, or Mabibo market? Now with this lesson, you'll understand that stock market or stock exchange is a specialized market for securities. So there's no way you can find different or other commodities like shoes or clothes in stock exchange. So in stock exchange is only for securities such as shares, and there's no way you can find shares in those other markets I've mentioned like Mabibo, Buguruni, or Kariakoo. So we are going to have an example of a question which can make us to understand this concept very clear. Now the question is, Mr. Think needs to buy different securities from the market. Commodity market? Now that's the question. Mr. Think needs to buy different securities like shares. Now the question is, will he get these securities from commodity market? Try to think on this. Can he get securities from other markets or commodity market? So my dear students, the answer here is no. He cannot get securities from those other markets. A place where he can get securities is only in stock market or stock exchange. The question continues. Identify the main characteristics for market that fits for the buying and selling of securities. So the question here needs you to explain what are the characteristics which differentiate a stock market or a market where securities are sold, and those other markets. So the question is trying to make you think, what are the characteristics which fits that market where securities are traded? Now, what are these characteristics? So let's have a look on these characteristics. So characteristics or features which are found in stock markets are the following. Number one is specialized market. Stock market or stock exchange is a market for securities. So only securities are traded in stock exchange. You cannot find any other commodities in stock market. So it's a specialized market for securities. Only securities are traded in stock exchange. Number two, rapid communication. In stock exchange, there is rapid communication. In stock market, information is communicated in a rapid way or in a quick way. For example, information about prices of shares is passed in a very, very rapid way or in a quick way, so that everyone in the market can get those information at the right time. Another feature is rigid rules. In stock market or in stock exchange market, there are rules and regulation which govern the market. So members of stock exchange are governed by these rules, and all other activities are conducted following these rules. So stock market is governed by capital market, and therefore all activities which are conducted over there, all members who are trading stock exchange must follow these rules. Another feature is approved securities. In stock market, only securities which are traded over there are those securities for those companies which have been registered or have been listed. So not every company shares can be traded in stock exchange. Only securities for approved companies are those which their shares can be traded in stock exchange. So for example, private companies are not allowed their shares to be traded in stock exchange. Only public companies which have been registered or have been listed in stock exchange is where their shares can be traded in stock exchange. Number four is bona fide members. And at this point, there are members in stock exchange who have been registered, and those members are the ones who are allowed to trade or transact in stock exchange. Not everyone can be allowed to trade or to conduct activities in stock exchange. For example, you as a member of public, when you are in need of shares or bonds, you must pass through these members. So these members have been authorized, they have been registered to trade in stock exchange. Now these members are brokers and jobbers. So any member of the public in need of shares, you must pass through these members. Number six, method of formation. Stock exchange have been formed by the Act of the Parliament, and their operation is conducted under Companies Act. So my dear students, these are the main features or characteristics of stock exchange. Now from this question here, identify the main characteristics for market that fits for the buying and selling of securities. So with such a question, now you can have clear answers or explanation to answer this question. So sometimes this question may be asked, what are the features of stock exchange? Yes. But I have tried to make this question to make you think more than asking you in a direct way. So this question demands you to explain on the characteristics or features of stock exchange. So don't get confused. This is just a way of asking. We are trying to ask a question so that you can think, not cramming. So hope you have understood this question and will be able to explain these features. Now after that, let's have a look on the benefits of buying shares or other securities from stock market. Now what are the benefits of buying shares or other securities? You need to understand, because in this world of investment, you must find out which one is the best investment. So one of those is investing in different companies. So you must know what are the benefits of buying shares or other securities. Now, what are these advantages? So we have a good number of advantages of a person buying shares or other securities. Now, I'm going to explain to you the main benefits or advantage of buying shares. Number one, when you buy a share, you're going to get a return on investment, and this is what we call dividend. When you buy a share from a certain company, it means you become a shareholder in that company. As a result, when a company is getting profit, you'll be a part and parcel of that profit. So at the end of the year, or any time depending on the company's policy, you will benefit from that profit. Now another advantage of buying shares, sometimes shares are sold at low price, and therefore you can buy them at low price, and when the prices of those shares rise, you can sell those shares and get the profit. So today, for example, you can buy a share of a certain company which is sold 500. Now, after some times, these shares price can rise. For example, it's 1,000 after 1 year. So you see here, you have this advantage of increase of 500 in these shares. So automatically, you have that advantage of enjoying the profit by selling at high price. Another advantage is national security. So the government may buy shares of a certain company in order to have a control in that company. There are those companies which are very, very important for a government to have shares in them, so that a government may have a control in those companies for national security. Another benefit is when you buy a share or shares, you may now have a chance or an opportunity to get a loan from either banks or cooperative societies. Now this will be used as your security. So when you have a share certificate, you can go in a bank and ask them to give you a loan, and your security will be the share certificate you have. And the last one is buying shares is a way of saving your money for future. So your money have been invested in a certain company. So it means those money are there. So when you need them in the future, you can get those money. So it's a way of saving your money for future. Now these are the main advantages of a person to buy shares of a certain company. So I advise you students, make sure you have a plan of buying shares. If not today, tomorrow. So this is the best way of investing your money. Don't stay with money at home. So make sure you have a plan of buying shares. Let's have a look on this question. Jack is an experienced wholesaler who earned a net profit $2 million in 2019. He is in dilemma whether to deposit such profit into fixed accounts with the bank or to buy shares from Darasa Stock Exchange. Convince him to invest in shares by explaining how he can benefit from such investments. Now the question is asking you, as an expert in commerce, as a student who is having knowledge in commerce, to convince Mr. Jacob, who is in dilemma either to deposit money in the bank or to buy shares. Now you need to advise or to convince Mr. Jacob. So how are you going to convince such a person who is in dilemma? For sure, this man is not aware with shares. So you, because you have a knowledge on shares, now advise him. So the best way of advising such a person is showing the advantages or benefits of buying shares or investing in shares. So tell Mr. Jacob that by investing in shares or buying shares, he can get profit as dividend. When the company gets profit, also he will get profit because he is a shareholder in that company. But also he can get profit by just selling those shares when their prices are high. But also you can convince this person by showing him that a share can be used as a security when he is in need of a loan. So all these advantages may help you to convince Mr. Jacob that he should invest in shares because he's going to benefit as I've explained here. So these are the advantages of buying shares. Now, you can also be asked a question, what are the main advantages of buying a bond? What are the main advantages of buying a bond? So the answer here is simple. In bonds, you expect to get interest. It's a source of income. Investing or buying bonds, here you expect to have interest, but also it can be used as a security. So those are the main advantages of both buying shares or bonds. So my dear students, hope now you are very, very comfortable when you meet a person who is in dilemma either to buy shares or to put money somewhere. So make sure you become a good ambassador by advising people to buy shares or to invest in shares, because you know the advantages or you know the benefits of buying or investing in shares. So after having such a good explanation on benefits or advantages of buying shares or bonds, now let's have explanation on different types of securities traded in stock exchange. Now, what are the main securities which are traded in stock exchange? Now, before explaining on these securities which are traded in stock exchange, let's have a look on different securities. Are all securities traded in stock exchange? We have different number of securities. We have various number of securities. Now a question is, can all these securities traded in stock exchange? Can all these which I have mentioned here qualify to be traded in stock exchange? So try to think, are all these securities here qualify to be traded in stock exchange? For example, a bill of exchange is a security. Is this qualified to be traded in stock exchange? Treasury bill is a security. Is this qualified to be traded in stock exchange? Now that's the question to be asked. Shares and bonds. Now what gives you a way to explain what are the securities which are traded in stock exchange? So my dear students, not all securities are traded in stock exchange. The only securities that are traded in stock exchange are those securities which are long-term securities. For example, bill of exchange is a security, yes, but this is for short term. Treasury bill is a security, yes, but is for short term. So these two do not qualify to be traded in stock exchange because they are short term securities. So the point to remember here is the only securities which are traded in stock exchange are those securities which are long-term securities or long-term investments. Let's have an explanation on the securities which are traded in stock exchange. The main securities which are traded in stock exchange are as follows. Number one is shares. Now, I'm sure you understand the meaning of shares. Just to remind you, a share is a unit of capital. So under shares, we have ordinary shares, as you can see here. Also, we have preference shares. So this is financial product which is traded in stock exchange. And these are the shares for the public companies which have been registered in stock exchange. Private companies are not allowed to trade in stock exchange. So only shares for public companies are the one which are traded in stock exchange. Number 2 is bonds. Now under bonds here, we have government bonds or treasury bonds. Also we have corporate bonds or debenture. Another one is municipal bonds, corporate bonds, university bonds, and the hospital bonds. Now bonds, these are long-term loan, either by the government or by companies or by municipal or cooperative societies or by university or hospitals and other institutions. So when the government is in need of money, it can issue a bond. Or when a company is in need of money, it can issue a bond. Or when a municipal is in need of money, can issue a bond. Or cooperative society, as well as university and hospitals. So this is the way of getting money from the public. So for example, when the government is in need of money to support some projects, it can issue bonds. But sometimes a company may need to expand its production, and the company is finding that for the time being is not convenient time to issue shares, so a company may decide to issue bond. But sometimes a municipal is in need of supporting a big project, also can issue bond to the public. So these are types of bonds which can be issued by different institutions or governments. Number 3 is future contract. Now a future contract is a contract for assets bought at agreed prices, but the reward and payment will be in the future. So the agreement can be done today, but the reward and payment of such agreement, this is just a contract. You agree today to do a business, but the reward of such product will be done in the future. Another one is option contract. This is an agreement between a buyer and a seller that give the purchaser the option or the right to buy or sell a particular asset at a later date at an agreed upon price. So under option here, the buyer or purchaser has an option to buy that asset. So my dear students, these are the main securities which are traded in stock exchange. So let's have a look on the securities which are traded in Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. These are general financial products or securities which are traded in different stock markets. But you may find some securities are not traded in a certain stock exchange. You may find the securities are traded in New York Stock Exchange may not be traded in Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. You know, these markets differ in terms of market capitalization as well as the size of the market. So there are some securities which I've mentioned here are not traded in Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. Now, what are the securities which are traded specifically in Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange? So, what are the securities that are traded in Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange? Now this the SE stand for Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. Now what are these securities? Number one is shares are traded in Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. Number two is bonds. So the only securities which are traded at Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange are shares and bonds. As you know, Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange is too young compared with other stock exchanges like New York, London, and Johannesburg. So we have only these two main securities which are traded in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, being shares, preference shares, and ordinary shares. And also we have the bonds, which are government bonds and corporate bonds. So when you ask the question that what are the securities which are traded in stock exchange, if the question is quiet without mentioning any a particular stock exchange, you have to discuss all those securities which I have explained here. But when the question is specifically for Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, please, my dear students, you have to mention only these types of securities, shares and bonds. Don't confuse. But Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange is also planning to have more security to be traded in stock exchange. It's just a matter of time. So these other types of bonds, like municipal bonds, it just depends. When the municipal is in need of money, it may issue bond and get such money from the public. So hope after some few years to come, you may find some more bonds in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. So hope, my dear students, now you are very clear with the types of securities traded in stock exchange. And now you can explain to someone the types of securities which are traded in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, as I have mentioned here. Are all securities traded in stock exchange? Now what's the answer here? So the answer is simple, that not all securities are traded in stock exchange, but the securities that are traded in stock exchange are those securities which are for long term. Those short term securities are not traded in stock exchange. So after having such a good introduction, then you can continue by mentioning the types of securities which are traded in stock exchange. So this is a very, very simple question. What you need here is just to understand that there are some other securities which do not qualify to be traded in stock exchange, but other securities do qualify to be traded in stock exchange. So you must be clear, or you have to differentiate what are those securities that are not traded and what are the securities which are traded. Because a question may need you to differentiate or to make a clear distinction between those which are traded and those which are not traded. So with this explanation, I'm sure you can now be comfortable explaining this concept of types of securities traded in stock exchange. So after this question, let's have a look on the factors which affect price of shares in stock exchange. Prices in stock exchange are not static. They keep on changing. They keep on increasing and falling. They do rise sometimes, sometimes they fall. So the question is, what are the factors which cause that situation to happen? What are these factors? Now, factor number one is performance of the company. Now, for those companies which are performing well, those companies which are getting profit, then their shares will attract many investors. As a result, those shares will have high demand, and therefore their prices will rise. But those companies which are performing poor, their shares won't attract many people to invest or to buy. As a result, their demand will fall, and therefore price also will fall. Another factor which affects price is major issues. For example, we are experiencing this disease of COVID-19. And this disease has affected different companies negatively. So production in different companies has decreased. So companies are not producing at their best level they used to produce. And therefore, profit for those companies has decreased also. So as a result, people are not attracted to buy shares for the time being, and therefore prices are falling. Another factor for this is political situation of a country. Those countries which are politically stable, many investors are attracted to invest in those countries, and therefore demand for shares in different companies will increase or will rise. Then automatically prices also will rise. But those countries which are politically unstable, many people, investors will run away from investing in those countries. Then automatically demand for shares will decrease, and therefore price also will fall. Another factor is trade activities. And at this point, trade activities, during boom, when trade activities are high, people have money at this particular time, and therefore they can buy shares from different companies. But when trade activities are down or are in depression, then automatically at this particular time, many people have no cash, so there's no way they can buy shares. Therefore, automatically, share price will fall. Another factor for this is government policy. Those companies which have been invested in those areas where the government is promoting, for example, those companies which are investing in industrial products. Now these companies are in a good favor because the government is promoting about industries, and therefore those companies which are in production of industrial materials then automatically are in a big favor. As a result, people will be attracted to invest through buying shares in those companies, and therefore share price will rise. Another factor which affects prices of shares in stock exchange is view of experts. Now, when experts such as financial analysts or economists write in favor of a certain company, then automatically people will be attracted to buy those shares of those companies. But when experts write in a negative way about a certain company or industry, then automatically these companies will be affected negative in terms of their shares, because demand for those type of companies, demand for shares for those type of companies will fall. But when these people write positively, automatically they will have a convincing power, trying to convince through their words, convince people to buy shares of such companies. Another point is general election. You know, my students, during election, some investors may wait and see, may wait so that they can know which political party is going to lead a country. So they are not sure during that time the party which is coming to lead a country will come with which policy. So they have to wait and see. So at that particular time, demand for shares will decrease. So after election, and investors are aware with the political situation or the part which has taken a country, now people can have a confidence to invest after knowing the political situation of a country. So my students, these are the important factors which affect prices of shares in stock exchange. You can have a question. Your mother bought ordinary shares in XYZ Limited Company, which is listed in DSE or Darasa Stock Exchange. Currently is complaining on the fall of the price of shares in the company and is really discouraged. Use your business knowledge to advise her that the situation may not be permanent. So your mother is complaining and is really discouraged about the fall of shares in the company she has invested. Now you as an expert, you who is having a knowledge in shares, at this point you know a lot about shares. What factors do affect the price of share in the market? So use that knowledge to advise your mother that this situation may not be permanent. Because you have a knowledge on that, I'm sure you can comfort your mom who is really discouraged about the fall of shares, or price of shares in a company which she has invested. So use your knowledge to convince your mom that this situation of price falling won't be permanent. Now use your knowledge, my dear student, to convince and to comfort your mom. Now the confidence of explaining to your mom is all about to explain the factors which we have explained there. That share prices can be affected by different factors. So if today those prices of shares your mother have been invested in that company, their prices are down, one day they may rise. It's just a matter of time. It may reach a time when the company will start performing well, and therefore many people will be attracted to buy shares in that company. and therefore price will start to rise. Or sometimes the government may be in favor of that company which your mother has been invested, and therefore the price, many people will be attracted to invest in such company. So use those points you have explained before to convince your mom. So this question need you to understand. The question is not asking direct that what are the factors affecting prices in stock exchange, but the question need you to understand what caused the prices of shares to fall and what caused the prices of shares to rise. So the question here needs you to explain those factors. The question is not that much direct, but needs you to think. Now, this is the mode of questions we call competence-based. And as a student, you must be clear with these questions. So, my dear students, hope you have understood these concepts you have explained here. And let's have a short break. After this, I'll allow some questions from you. Now ask your question through the number which is passing here on your screen. You are welcome, and I welcome questions from different parts of this country. For those who are listening this program, so please be comfortable to ask questions in any area you have a doubt or you have any comment. You just use my number to write that question. Thank you. See you later. Hello, my students. Welcome back after a short break in this session of answering your questions which have received from different parts of the country. Question number 1. Hello, sir. I'm Onesmo Leiza from Arusha. My question is, why do companies sell shares? Thank you. I'm enjoying the program. Thank you for your appreciation, and thank you for a good question. Onesmo is in need to know why companies sell shares. So companies sell shares for these two main reasons. Number 1, for existing company may sell shares in order to increase its capital for expansion. Sometimes a company may increase production, and the capital available is not enough to support such big production. And therefore, it may issue shares so that it can have more capital from the public to support such big production. For a new company, it issues shares so that it can have capital to start a business. So those two reasons make clear or answer this question from Onesmo. Question number 2. Hi, sir. Thank you for an amazing program. I'm Zakia Salum from Lindi. I have an interest in understanding this concept. If one can be a bondholder and a shareholder at the same time. Thank you. Darasa Online is the best. Thank you for your appreciation. Zakia Salm is in need to understand if someone can be a bondholder or a shareholder. Or in other words, you can say, if someone can buy shares at the same time buy bonds. So this is, there's no any problem for someone to buy shares and bonds at the same time. It just depends with your financial ability. So if you have enough money or enough cash, you can buy both of them at the same time, bonds and shares. Another question is, hi sir, can a private company's shares be traded in stock exchange? Now this student who has not mentioned his or her name here is in need to know if a private company shares can be traded in stock exchange. So the answer here is no. Shares of a private company cannot be traded in stock exchange. The only shares which are traded in stock exchange are those shares for public companies. Only public companies, not private companies. So, if a private company is in need of selling their shares to be traded in stock exchange, that private company should change into public company. And after changing or converting into public company, then it should also be listed or registered in the Darasa Stock Exchange. After that, then that company has all rights of its shares to be traded in stock exchange. So with those three questions, I'm sure you have understood. So I encourage more questions as we continue this lesson. So thank you, my dear students, for watching this lesson and listening. And I welcome you to the next lesson, where we'll be having a very interesting subtopic, which is Darasa Stock Exchange, where we'll be explaining the functions of Darasa Stock Exchange, or the roles played by Darasa Stock Exchange. Also, the problems facing Darasa Stock Exchange, without forgetting the solutions for those problems which are facing DSE or Darasa Stock Exchange. So my dear students, as you know, a country is faced with this dangerous disease, COVID-19 or coronavirus 19. You have to stay at home watching and following these programs, and protect yourself by washing your hands clear. Hope you will be safe. Thank you.